What's going on, everybody? The RedSon lives once again. I fucking hate intros. It makes me sound so, like, self absorbed. Like, what's going on, everybody? You came here for me. Even, you kind of did, but, like, it's a weird. It feels weird. It feels like I'm being self absorbed, but that's probably just because I'm just talking into a computer rather than, like, a setup. Because the setup is dedicated to you. This computer is used for like 70 things, including a lot of other stuff that I can't remember at the moment because I don't feel like remembering it. But my last video, that was me finally finishing up the whole shit that I did in school. I might talk about like what happened to me in school again sometime, but like I don't know, I'm gonna give it a while. Mostly because I don't like that shit. But then the next thing I wrote down, I don't remember why I wrote it down, but it just said poor but not that poor. Like flip phone when others had smartphones. I don't know when I wrote this, but past me knew exactly the words to use to get me to get me in the mindset. Did anybody else grow up in like that kind of like social status? Like you're not that like if you wanted to have fun when you were a kid, you couldn't convince your parents to buy you a toy or like show you any of these cool things or like take you down to some place that would have been fun. They said go play outside. And like sometimes they would just hand you stuff and be like, it's a toy," and you could easily look at it like you were a little too smart for it. Because my parents would pull that shit all the time. I'm like, imagine if you're a kid and you go to Walmart and you're just like, "Mom, can I have this toy?" And if you're at Walmart, you're probably not in a good boat as is. I mean, just be fair. If you go to Target, then you're a little bit above Walmart. But I was like, I know Walmart's a shitty place to be at, social wise, but like it's there. But it's the only place within like a 30-minute drive. So like the way that I always grew up is it was make the best of what you got regardless of what it is because it could be something really good or it could be something really shitty. But like when I was like 10 years old, there were kids out there who had like the first gen iPads. Like they would play, be like, "Oh, check it out, it's awesome," and it was like Cut the Rope or Doodle Jump or something like that. That makes me feel way older than it is. Because those games are not that old, but every time I look back on them, I'm like, am I that old? I'm not even 20. But the thing that I always remembered from like my childhood was those kids having like tablets and they could like play on them, and some kids had like 3DSs and they were like, "Oh, this is the shit," and they were all playing it. And then I would get home and my kind of entertainment was taking an old rusty metal pipe that I had, not a a little metal rod that I had that was like fucked up on the end of it, so it kind of looked like a drill bit, but it wasn't. And I would just go out there and I would find a rock that had a whole bunch of like little seams in it, and I would just sit there, like just twisting the metal into the rock for like 2 hours at a time. It was weird. Like I would sit there and it would start like creating dust, and I would wonder like, how is this happening? This is so mesmerizing. I could still probably do it forever, but it would feel a little bit weird now. Just those little things that you did when you were a kid. Like some of like the younger kids that I knew, they're like, yeah, I used to play outside when I was a kid. I'm like, bitch, you're 13. What does kid to you mean? Kid to me is 15 and below. 15 and below. Because once you hit 16, you start actually having a few thoughts. It's like some like actual shit like I'm gonna remember this for the rest of my life. Because everybody's like, once I hit high school, I'm an adult. No. The first 2 years of high school don't fucking matter. You're still a kid. Once you get to like once you hit 16, you know a little bit of shit. You actually start figuring out, like, okay, this is what's going on. This is what's going on. I need to act like this. Be self conscious now, but don't give a fuck about what's happening later. But, like, when I was a kid, this is gonna involve me saying shit like that again. But when I was a kid, I would, like, I lived on this property that had, like, 42 acres, and it was fucking enormous to me. Like, it was this big open front yard that was like all rocks and trees. And then there was like this trail that just led straight out into the backyard. Like, there was the backyard, had the trampoline. Yeah, I was balling as a kid. Flex on the bitches and hoes and other of such things. I feel stupid, but I'm gonna keep doing it. Yeah, I had the weird jerry rigged together I had the weird kind of a tree house, but not really a tree house. It was just a whole bunch of like 2x4s nailed into a tree so that you could climb on it, and there would be some plywood underneath it that you could like sit under, but like after 2 years it started to rot away, and my dad never wanted to fix it, so we just kind of didn't step on certain spots of it. And then we would jump off of it like 6 feet onto his trampoline. Then we would bounce like 2 times. Then we just lie down on the trampoline. Like, that was my backyard, but then there was this trail that went into this enormous property that just went on forever to me as a kid. Like, you could walk for an hour and not be at the end of it. It was fucking awesome. But I never appreciated it because I grew up with it, and then my parents got a Wii, and I spent a lot more time playing with it than I did going outside. And then, like, every time they would say go outside, it would just be like, no, the Wii is in there. And I feel like that's what spiraled me down into what I have now. Because when I was still young and I didn't actually get to play with the Wii, the only knowledge I had of video games was my dad's NES and a classic Sega. Like, we played the original Sonic game. My dad played We played the original Sonic game. My dad played Dr. Mario. We had Super Mario Bros. The first one and three. They were fucking awesome. And like, we didn't play anything past that. My dad would my dad would play this one game. I forget the name of it. It's called like I think Knight's Quest or something. That's not it. But it was he loved playing it because he knew how to get like through everything. And I would watch it and I'm like, this is the height of what graphics will be. And then my dad was like, all right, I think I'm done with this. I'm going to go outside and start working on something. And he would go out and he would like fix up this old tractor that he bought for like $400, and he would put like $200 worth of stuff into it. I'm like, this isn't really a good economical push for it. I mean, we don't exactly need a tractor. We can mow the lawn with a different thing. But all right, you go ahead. And then I would just walk out into the woods. We would all walk out there and have fun. There's this one big open spot where we would have like a shit ton of fires all the time, like a bonfire out there. It's like, Dad, I'm gonna head back to the house. All right. And it wasn't just like a straight walk back. It was like a windy, curvy trail that eventually led back to the house. Like, if you wanted to get back, it would take a solid 15 minutes of walking. I feel like that's the place where I learned to swear the most. Just because I would be walking down the trail and I would remember something that my parents said, and I would be like, "You can't tell me what to do, bitch." And then, like, I would hear something, and I'm like, "What are you saying? Oh, that's not them. They can't hear me out here. They can't hear me. I can say what I want. Fuck the police." And then I would just be walking down there, a 9-year old, listening, knowing the only rap that I had ever heard in my life was like NWA and Eminem, and I had no other frame of reference. And I would just be walking down there like, "Yeah, I'm awesome. I'm cool." Huh. That shit felt awesome. If you've never like had the huge backyard, just go somewhere where you can walk around like that and go there a few times. It's a feeling of just release that makes you feel awesome. But that was like the only thing that I had. I had my backyard and the trampoline and a rope swing my dad kind of cared about, but didn't really. Like, it broke once, but it broke when somebody was visiting the house and he fell into a large hole instead of us, so we didn't really care. We just fixed it and we haven't seen it since we moved. We don't really go to that place anymore. And like that was all I had. Like, you want to go to the rec center? And my grandma would sometimes come over and be like, "You want to go to the rec center and go swimming?" I would be like, "Heck yeah, I want to go swimming because I don't got anything fucking else to do." I didn't have internet for the longest period of time. If I wanted to get on the internet, there wasn't any social networking that I could get on. There was one website that I ever went to, and I only gave a shit about it. That was Pop Tropica. If any of you know what Pop Tropica is, or what it was like in the glory days of when it was around, that was the shit. Goddamn, I miss that. I miss that game so much. It was so cool for the longest period of time. But like, when I did, that was like the only time that I could have on the computer. And we didn't have infinite internet. We had like the amount I was able to use, and then I got like picked up and then put into my room, and then I never touched the computer again for like the next month. But then like I kept like asking my parents like, "Hey, can I get a phone? Hey, can I get a phone? Who are you gonna call? You guys, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. We're all simpatico. We all got what's going on. If I'm at school and I need something, I can text you or I can say something. Trust me, it's gonna be important. I don't really require a lot. Can I get a phone?" And I was imagining like, I'm gonna get one of those cool, the magic phones where you can like touch it with your thumbs and it'll respond. No, I didn't get one of those. I got one of those, those phones that had like the little tiny screen that was like the size of your two thumbs put together, and then the bottom parts of it was like 1 through 9 on keyboard, and then you would like flip it sideways, and you would be able to like it would turn into like a more advanced keyboard that had like certain other things on it. I had one of those for 2 years, and then we moved and I lost it. And it was I didn't get a phone for the next period of time like that. Like, I had a little bit of interaction with the outside world, never for 2 years. Now I got this. This is an upgrade, but I've had it for a while, and I feel the need to upgrade. I really don't care. It's not that big of a deal to me. But it's one of those weird ass feelings where it's like, people had iPads and like Apple phones when you were a kid, right? Yeah. Well, when was this? I was, 13, 14 when I had one of those. 13, 14. That was 2013, 2014. There were some very advanced things back then. You didn't have to have one of those little LG Cosmos, whatever the fuck they're called. Oh, you didn't have to have one of those. Well, that was the only one my parents gave me. How much did your parents spend on it? Yeah. I just kind of got it, and then I didn't really ask any questions. I just got like, phone! And that was it. Or like some people had Xbox 360s when they first came out. Everybody had like the PS4, all these like badass stuff. But we were like finding stuff in yard sales that we could like hook up and work for like 4 months, and then we would have to throw it away and go spend another $20 on something else we found at a yard sale and make ourselves fun. Like when I was a kid, I was it's not like that level of poor where you have to like focus on a lot of shit, where you have to like focus on survival and you don't have to like wear a jacket all the time indoors because it's freezing. But it was like you couldn't have modern technology. Nothing about the house was modern to it. You had Wi-Fi for 2 hours total, then you had to wait a month. We had decent TV, but when I was a kid, I wasn't supposed to watch a ton of TV. My parents didn't like me watching certain things because then they'd see me imitating it and they didn't want to deal with that. My parents told me I couldn't watch SpongeBob for 2 years because they didn't want me like re just repeating everything that he said. Like if I started laughing like SpongeBob, they would just smack me and be like, "No, stop it, it's dumb." And nowadays I'm like, "Yeah, that's fair. That's fair." Yeah, 'cause it's a lot more annoying to me now than it was any other time. But like there were just a lot of shows that we weren't allowed to watch because my parents were kind of protective, but then again they had full-time jobs so they couldn't really care a ton. They were just like, "What do you want? What makes you feel good? Food? All right, we're doing a good job." He didn't say murder, so that's a good starting point. And after that, after that I moved over to my I lived with my grandma for a while, and then we moved over to the house that I'm at right now, and I got a lot more in touch with like what the stuff that we have around us. I got better channels on TV. I learned how to use the internet a lot better, and I got an Xbox One, which makes me feel a lot more connected. So now I'm like, I know everything that's going on with technology now. But when I was a kid, there was like this weird disconnect from everything that made it feel like anything that I did then would be compatible throughout the years. So you're like, what'd you get for a phone? This weird one that's not a touchscreen, but it has like a flip up feature that I can text with it. And they're like, alright. Like that could be given to any generation, and they would be like, it's a phone, which is a big deal, but like, it's not a new phone. So what do I do with it? Yeah, well, you just text people when you want to, and you don't text people when you can't. All right. Like, like I said, poor, but not that poor. A lot of people were playing games when they were kids against other people online. I was driving my dad's four wheeler around in the middle of the woods. Other people were like, "You can go to the water park and we can all have fun." I was like walking down to the bridge and riding my bike down to the bridge because I felt like it. Some people were like, "Oh, it's a bug. I don't want to touch it." When I was like 7 years old, I walked 2 miles down to a bridge that we went to just so I could hang out there. And then I would walk back. On the way there, a baby rattlesnake started sprinting up towards me, so I killed it. Because baby rattlesnakes, fucking scary. They're not smart like the adult ones. They just bite you and then don't let go. They just kill you immediately. Hey, like, I was a hard ass kid. I'm a soft ass adult now. It's a weird transition from what I was to what I am now. When I was a kid, I had like that disconnect from everything around me where it's like, what are you going to do when you're outside? I don't know. Have fun. Climb a tree because I can, hang out, just go play with my dogs for 2 hours and not notice time passing. But like now, I can feel the seconds moving by. Like, oh, that's one, that's two, that's three, that's four, that's five, six, seven. Shit, when's it gonna be over? Over. And I was in that like that weird phase. Has anybody else ever gone through that where when you're like when you don't know if you're poor or not, you just start noticing how often you eat macaroni and cheese and hot dogs? Like I can't be the only one who was just like, "Yay, macaroni and cheese and hot dogs! Yay, macaroni and cheese and hot dogs!" And then you grow up after then like 10 years later, you're like, "Did we eat macaroni and cheese and hot dogs for like a month straight? What was going on with us? What? How? Who? Who was buying drugs with our food money? Where the fuck did everything go? Goddamn. Seriously, like what happened to us? Like it's not a big deal, and I don't care now. But like there was some signs that like we didn't have money, but we did have a huge fucking we had a huge fucking land mass that we just owned. What do you want to do? Biking through the woods. My dad would come up to me. He's like, "You want to see something cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Are we gonna like get in the four wheeler and drive around for a little bit because that's fun? No. Oh, we're gonna go swimming because Grandma loves to take us? No. We're gonna do this. And he would take a big hunk of like clay that he found that was just in the ground, and he picked it up and he threw it. And then he would wait for it to come back down, and then he would punch it really hard, and then it would explode, and I would sit there like, whoa, whoa. Oh, like it was super cool to watch, and I would be a kid, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like tearing the skin off my knuckles because that shit hurts, and I would continuously do it like over and over. I'm like, this is awesome, it's so cool, and my dad's like, that's a kid. It, and I like look back and I asked my parents like, were we poor? And my dad would look at me and he's like, you don't know poor. That doesn't answer my question. Is that a yes or a no? Can you illuminate me on the status effect? Were we broke? Did we have money? If we wanted to if we had to move, could we? This is I feel like there's some questions that needed answering. If anybody else can relate to this, or anybody else even cares about like this level of life, please tell me. Please tell. I can't see shit. Oh. Like if anybody else can like relate to like whatever I did, like I don't know. It was just a lot bonfires, phones that were a decade old when you first got them, using trees and logs that you found in the woods rather than using 2x4s and planks, owning a four wheeler for any reason that isn't a job, trampoline in the backyard, playing in the woods because everywhere else is too expensive, and hot dogs and macaroni and cheese for more than a week straight. Those are the defining features of like what I went through. That I don't know what economic status I was, but I know it wasn't high. The house was big, but there was like nothing in it. It's a I don't know what I was when I was that age, but like it wasn't rich, but it wasn't poor. It was fucking fun. When I was a kid, that was awesome to me. If I could go back and start doing that again, I would appreciate the shit out of it now, or I would be like, it's gonna be awesome. I show up and I'm like, this fucking blows. Can I go back to like Can I go back to when, like, I knew about hentai and anime? Because, like, that sounds awesome, and we don't have internet out here, and this is not unlimited. And it's a weird state that I lived in. Not state as in place, I mean, like, state of mind. But I love that place. It was fun. You know what it's like when you get a knife and suddenly it's the best thing that you own? Like, the only connection I had to the outside world was Pop Tropica and Pokemon cards. Nothing else. I didn't know anything else. That was fun, and goddamn, I wish I could go back for like a week and then come back to what I'm doing right now. Alright? A little bit of reminiscing for today. But I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do for day after tomorrow, which I'm probably gonna spend getting hyped for Doom. So, yeah, let's go ahead and end that here. So, I now know there's a big thing going around that I feel like is affecting a lot of you. It's affecting my town. It's named after an alcoholic beverage, and it has something to do with entering your body. So, helpful tip of the day: wash your hands. Don't do gross stuff with your fingers, unless it's to yourself. 'Cause that's okay. Other than that, fuck off. Don't touch people. So, have a nice day. See you guys again soon. And the red sun setting. Bye, guys.